When it comes to small business, everything is personal. Welcome to the Making Business Personal podcast, presented by Collective Alternative. Join me, Levi Trageser, each month as I sit down with marketing professionals and small business leaders to discuss common challenges small businesses are facing with their marketing and share strategic solutions and tactics you can implement to enhance your presence and make your brand stand out among the rest. Let's get personal.
Welcome to another episode of the Do You Plan podcast. I'm your host, Geoff Horen, and today I have Amanda Parker with me from Collective Alternative. Full disclosure, Amanda is the owner of the marketing company that I use. And second full disclosure, this is the second time we've done this podcast because I did not like the first version and I'm making her do it again. So I apologize to our producer and to Amanda for doing this a second time. So welcome, Amanda. How are you today?
I thought you just wanted me to, get a second take because it took you 2 years of your podcast to actually invite me to be on it. So then, you felt bad. So you just wanted me to do it again.
That was part of it. Yeah. So now I'm down to interviewing you once a year. Exactly. So, okay. So I know it'll feel like rehashing a touch, but I want to go back and revisit some of the things we talked about the first time. And then I want to take the conversation down a slightly different path, as you know. And to begin with, what I would like to do is, can you hit a little bit on your background that led you to starting CA?
My background, I went to Indiana University. My degree was in English. What do you do with an English degree? I got a job at an agency writing radio commercials, billboard campaigns, that kind of thing. Loved it. A smaller firm, so I was able to dabble in other things. So I did some media buying, some account management, all of those kinds of things, and just really started to work my way up, if you will. Went to a couple other agencies and just really found my love in strategy and development was the thing that I loved to do the most. And while I was searching for that, I would say I also discovered a hole, if you will, on the market, which was a lot of agencies go after the bigger campaigns, the bigger clients, the Nikes, the Pacers, the Eli Lillys of the world.
Chasing the big dollars.
Mm-hmm. And no one was really out there helping the mom and pops, helping the small businesses. And that was just, I feel like they're the lifeblood of our economy. So, if anybody needs the help when it comes to marketing, it's them. Right. They don't have time to do it. They don't know what they're doing. They don't want to know what they're doing. They just want to do their business and what they started out loving, and they don't want to learn marketing. And so I wanted to fill that gap and help them grow and retain some market share. So I opened CA in 2008.
2008. That's nice timing, right?
It was a really great time. The economy was just booming. Yeah, no, terrible time. My husband and I joked the first year that God paid our mortgage. We have no idea how that actually happened, but we were very grateful just the same.
They do say that a lot of great businesses start in downturns. So, truly. So there is something to that, I think. Probably coming in, filling a need, filling a gap in the market and finding a niche. Obviously, it's worked for you.
Yeah, absolutely. This year will be our 15th year. So very exciting stuff.
Now, I tell people in my world that we've been in business between 23 and 24 years. We're 23 and a half.
Okay.
And so we're just like a typical 23 and a half year old in that we think we know everything, but we really haven't experienced anything in the world yet. So we're always learning. Do you feel in your business like you're a typical teenager, or do you feel like you've experienced enough in the years prior to starting your business that you're at least in your 20s?
I probably would say I felt like a typical teenager, but after surviving the Great Recession and then another downturn and then COVID, that now everything that's going on in the world, and I feel like I have been run over by a Mack truck, probably at least once a week.
Right.
So I feel like I'm pretty weathered.
So how have you, I want to dig in a little bit to some of the specific elements of your business, but How have you evolved over time? Have you just reacted to the next set of changing conditions in the economy or the marketplace and then decided, okay, based on this happening, I'm going to pivot to do this? Or have you said, I have a vision for where I want to go, and so I'm going to go execute my plan, and then I'll adapt my plan based on those things? I mean, both can be a reasonable approach, but I'm curious how you've looked at that.
So when I started the company, I felt like I had a very clear vision of what I wanted and where I wanted to go, what, the services we offered would look like, what the company would look like. And the only time I can honestly say the only time I ever feel like I got into trouble or just really started struggling as a company and all of that was when I got away from that vision.
Was getting away from it trying to do things that weren't at your core, so to speak, or was it just uncontrolled growth?
It was, I always listen to other people's opinions because I don't have all the answers. Right. And there are a lot of people who have gone before me. So, surely they would know better than I. And I think I put too much stock in some of that advice. And I started reacting to what they said and doing what they said instead of doing what was more true to me. Mm-hmm. To thine own self be true, right? And the minute I did that, it just went downhill so fast. So then, there was a huge recovery period that needed to occur and get us back on track with the vision we started with, that whole back to basics. And it was important for us to go through that and solidified both the company and me and my team together behind the company and what we stand for. I
strongly believe that when you run into some of those obstacles, they force your hand to get better. It's that grow or die, but not necessarily grow in terms of revenue, but just grow in terms of your approach to how you handle your business, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It really is very, very true. The place that I'd like to take the conversation is a little different because I remember back to when I met you. And I was actually
changed your life, right?
Changed forever. It initially was, I'm sure, probably me doing a favor for Brian Adams because you probably telling Brian Adams, "Hey, introduce me to so and so or so and so," and Brian's like, "Hey, you need to talk to Amanda," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll talk to Amanda for you."
How do you know it wasn't me doing a favor for Brian Adams?
That could be true. That could be true. Yeah, you're both very important in my business life, so that is probably true. The initial conversation, though, wasn't it. My hesitancy wasn't that I didn't have a need. We both know today and knew then probably everybody has a need from a marketing perspective. It's being a small business owner that has so many irons in the fire in different places and understanding that I needed to find a different way to get things done that wasn't myself, which I still need to learn that lesson really even today to a great extent, but one less area because now my marketing is generally covered, even though I know, hold up the train with you.
Yeah, I
like to get in the way. I always say I'm the kink in the hose, but with a good heart. It's with good intentions. But at the time, I didn't want to jump in. I had a couple of prior relationships with marketing agencies, and I just perceived it as the black hole of money going down this tube that never came back, and that nobody ever got a handle on our business or our culture or our brand or our voice, as I call it, right? Mm-hmm. And so they couldn't effectively help me if I didn't know how I needed the help, right? And I think that's probably an issue with a lot of small businesses. We were doing fine. We were getting business. I've told you from day one, it's not the relationship that I have with you isn't about, let's see how many leads you can put in front of me. Because for us, every time that we interact with a potential client, that could be 6, 8, 10 hours to interact with one person. So we have to be very selective in how we spend our time, because getting all of those calls can be very counterproductive for us, right? Mm-hmm. Not that we don't want calls and not that we're not interested in talking to people about their projects, but I always use the phrase that it's very difficult for us to chase a ghost, because we could spend 10 hours going down a path with somebody for a project that may never happen. Mm-hmm. So it's really, really important. So my relationship with your company has always been one where you were helping me get better in other ways, is how I look at it. We still do play with things all the time and try new things, but it's never for me been about how many leads can you drive to how much revenue can you drive to my bottom line. Correct? You agree? Initially,
I think initially it was definitely what's the ROI look like?
Yes.
And there was a lot of tracking and a lot of reports. And I mean, you've got that massive spreadsheet that is just insane.
Still going today. Yeah.
But so I think you had that at first. And I mean, you're not the first business owner to feel like that. I think all of our clients come to us that way. And I would say one thing we do really well is we understand where you are and we try and meet you there. So if you have hesitancy with marketing, which you did,
of course, yeah,
then we try and discover what that looks like and what's going on there and dig into that to make you feel more comfortable. And over the years, you've given me a little bit more leeway, a little bit more.
Sure.
And so we've just gone at your pace. And that's good enough for me.
Right. And I think there's genius in that on your end when we have conversations about big companies and agencies chasing big dollar accounts. I still do small projects today for people because I call them the gateway drug to big projects, right? Jokingly, it's probably not appropriate, but I say they're the weed of remodeling.
The bread and butter.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
that if we do a good job on something small and we're earning trust and we're building a relationship, the other things will come. And that's essentially what you're doing on the business to business side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our tagline is making business personal. I just wanted to create relationships. I just wanted to help. And sometimes that was with little things and sometimes it was with bigger things. And I didn't really care and I don't really care now. I just want to help and I want to help you succeed and be better. And I always tell my team, and it's a big part of our culture, leave people better than you found them. I believe that to my very core. And if we can help our clients and leave them better than we found them, then we did our job.
In your world of marketing is constantly changing. All you have to do is try to figure out what the SEO dynamics are on a given day. And by the time you wake up the next day, it's probably different already. And so I don't even know how you keep up with those changes. And that's just one small thing, not to mention everything else with websites and social media and some of the things that we'll get into. But I think it's interesting that it's very intimidating to figure out where to start as a business owner as well, right? And that's part of you're almost like on a remodeling project. If I'm sitting at in our conference room with a husband and wife presenting a price and she wants this and he wants that, and they have different thoughts. Sometimes we're a marriage counselor and we're a psychologist and we're all of those things with our clients as we work through the process to get to a place where they're going to be really excited about what we're doing for them and be really comfortable. You are essentially doing the same thing for me it's a different widget, but it's essentially the same activity in helping people like myself navigate where we might spend our time and our effort with the thing that's going to give us the biggest bang for our buck, because you understand at least where we're trying to take it and where we want to go next, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But on my side, it's still, all of those things are very intimidating. Not intimidating might be a harsh or a strong word, but
overwhelming.
Overwhelming is a better word, especially at the beginning of a relationship when you have all of these options and you say, where are we going to focus first? That's just the reality of where we started. So as I wanted to get into the conversation today, I wanted to think about it from the perspective of what was I thinking about when I started, and where did we go with it? Almost a small bit of a case study and how we've evolved with it. Not that we need to put all of my business out there for the world, but mostly because I don't think I'm a lot different than most people. And if if another small business owner or a potential client of yours was listening to this and thinking, first thing we want them to think is, I need to remodel my kitchen. The next thing we would want them to think right after that would be, how can I make this process easier and less of a struggle as I find a relationship with a marketing company? Can we start by going back to that time where you have people come in, like myself, where I had my Wix, I think it was Wix website.
It was a Wix website
that I had spent hours and hours creating on my own over the course of many months.
Yes.
So we had our functional website as we saw it. We had all of our kind of branding and our information. And to be truthful, I mean, a lot of our reputation was built online reviews, Angie's List. I mean, we'd worked very hard to get a very good reputation over many, many years. I think we had 600 and some reviews, or we do have 600 and some reviews on Angie's List. We were A-rated, Better Business Bureau forever, super service provider every year since 1999 on Angie's List. Like, those things were important to our brand because they gave us credibility. But we were also in an environment where, quite honestly, I could see the writing on the wall. And the writing on the wall was that Angie's List wasn't going to be my long-term partner for driving business, because they had gone public. They had started making changes to the way that they managed their business. And that was negatively impacting the way I was managing my business. So therefore, we were going to go through a relative breakup to a place where we were getting over $1 million a year from Angie's List leads alone. And we've effectively reduced that to zero, but not missed a beat. And if anything, we've grown and successfully completed that transition. And I say we've done it together because I wouldn't have done it by myself. You guys were integral in getting that done. But when I'm thinking about what we were doing at the time, I think what we were doing is we were trying to play with some things that might generate high quality activity, lead activity, while at the same time improving and kind of amplifying our brand. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
Do you kind of take that same initial approach with most clients of just doing an assessment very early to understand, hey, this is what you're doing. These are the tools you have in place today. Where can we help? Is that what you would normally do?
Typically. So to use you as an example, you shared with me your concerns about Angie's List, but you weren't ready to let that go.
Agreed.
And so it was very much can you replace the number of leads I'm seeing from Angie's List? Can you replace that? That's kind of what you posed me with. And you had not come to the realization yet that you didn't want all of those leads. You wanted fewer, better quality. So that was a transition we had to get you to until you were comfortable to have that conversation. And you and I have always joked that we're on the same page. And I feel like we're on the same page because it's always kind of what's next and where do you go now? And we have open, candid, strategic conversations regularly about what you want to be doing and where you want to go. And you're open to listening to our ideas. And and things that we may think would be good for the business. And because of that, we're stronger together. And I think most of our clients, when they come here, they have similar apprehensions that you did. They maybe have been with some other firms and got burned or felt like they spent a lot of money and they didn't get anything. So we have kind of a hurdle to overcome even from the get-go.
Right.
And I mean, I had one client, a prospect, when I met him, he said, "I don't work with marketing people. They're the scourge of society."
That's nice to know.
And
that's a level lower than a politician.
Yeah. And we took that company and built them from a $2 million company to a $7 million company in 3 years. And he got me a huge Christmas gift, and he was like, "I'm so sorry. I can't believe I called you that." And I understood, right?
He was being honest for where he was at that time and what he understood the value to be of other people in your industry, which is actually something that we run into, right? It's not like the home improvement industry has a great reputation in society. I mean, most people
you might be the scum of society, not scourge.
Yeah,
so we're just a little bit below you, but
yeah. I mean, even this podcast came about where we both had an idea at essentially the same time as we were planning going forward to trying to do this, and that was actually very interesting of where this has gone. We do it for a year, we're just doing audio, then we add video, and we're just playing and trying things all the time to have conversations that reinforce the brand, which the brand in this particular case really being focused on just being thought leaders, right? And just trying to be out there having interesting conversations and helping people. And if we help people, that ultimately will be seen as authentic and will be seen as sincere, the people that we're trying to be, which is exactly what we are to our clients. Mm-hmm. Like all of those things kind of go into it. And it just starts with a conversation like this, right? Which is where you're starting your relationships.
Yeah. I mean, when we first started talking about it, my intention was just to give you a different platform for people to get to know you. Because once they did, they would understand how you approach things, how very different that is, how particular you are about things, especially when it comes to the work product you deliver, all of those different instances, just to allow people to get to see that and get to know that. And then they would know, yep, he's the guy I want me to do my remodel project.
Right. And if you can be seen as different in our world, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. And same thing in your world. I mean, it's very, very similar. Your world is particularly interesting to me because it's similar to my world in another way, which is I think of us as baseball players. And by that, I mean that baseball players tend to fail more than they have success in terms of hit rates, right? You can be a 300 hitter and fail 7 out of 10 times as a Major League Baseball player and make millions and millions of dollars and be seen as incredibly successful because it's very hard to do, right? And same thing in our world. We're not selling 9 out of 10 projects of people that call us. I mean, it's hard to get to a place where somebody's calling you at the right time when they're ready with an understanding of their project and they're really, truly ready to go. Sometimes they're just calling for information. In your world, you're suggesting ideas to people and bringing tools to them where you're just trying to get looks and views and touches and trying to put people in front of your potential client as I see it. And this is where I want to dig in a second. Knowing that a hit rate, like if you had a 3% hit rate or a whatever percent hit rate, that could be outstanding, but it's still like 97% of the people are just glancing and moving on with their lives. Do you have trouble getting people to understand that you have to just be out there getting in front of people to have that success?
Yes. It's
exhausting.
I mean, yes. And not even that. It's, why can't you just turn these ads on and I'm getting leads like tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's so many soft touch things that as I think about it and I put myself back and then I think about everything that I know today, and you could have the best ad that drives the most traffic. And if they have a crappy person answering the phone, they ruin that opportunity for sale. Mm-hmm. Or if your website's not doing this.
Huh? I've had that client.
Yeah. Or if you had a Wix website that wasn't, worth the damn for SEO or things like that, a GoDaddy version, because somebody watched the Super Bowl one night and said I'm going to build my own website the next day.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's not effectively driving traffic. I think it would be very difficult to corral people who just don't know. And one of the things that I appreciate about you and your company, again, not trying to create a commercial, but if I went and hired a marketing person, let's say I got a really good one. Let's say I went and I stole Kristen from you. You'd be like, hell no.
Would never happen, but okay.
But let's say, okay, I'm still at some level, as talented as she is, I'm still at the mercy of just what she knows. But with your company, I get SEO, I get website, I get creative, I get all of those pieces that you have. And I'm not hiring a full-time person with benefits, with payroll taxes and all those things. I'm getting the things that I need. So when you talk, in my mind, when you talk about meeting somebody where they are, I think that's the value that it feels like you bring to me. Is we might be having a conversation one day about, let's try this Facebook ad and see what it does for 60 days and literally just try something, right? Which we kind of tend to do. And then immediately we're like, okay, yeah, let's go do something else and we'll change it. And that's the beauty of it, but we're not locked into one person's knowledge or experience. Will you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I do want to touch on really quickly for people who do have Wix websites or GoDaddy sites, as long as you start somewhere, whatever you can afford. And then when you can do better, you do better.
And I'm probably the best example of that because I dug in and kept that site for a few years because I wasn't willing to pay for another website for another thing because I just wasn't ready, right?
Yeah. And I mean, we did a lot off of your Wix website. Yes. So, I mean, when you can do better, you do better. But as long as you start somewhere. So speaking to the team, I would say part of my vision when I started was I know a lot or a little about a lot. I know a lot of things, but I'm probably 15-20% deep in them. I couldn't get on and start doing your SEO for you. Not my area. So I surrounded myself with a really strong SEO person, an SEO genius, if you will. And, and he's been with me forever. Then, I didn't know graphic design. My oldest employee that has been with me for 11 years, graphic designer, and she's stayed with me forever. And, Kristen came on because I didn't know web and I needed somebody to do web. And then we brought Chet on, and Chet does websites and web development and all of that. So I surround myself not just with doers, I surround myself with other experts in different areas so that when you come to me and you say, I want to talk SEO, you and I can talk high level, but when you really want to understand it or you really want to get into the details, I can bring RF in. I can bring Simon in. We can have those deeper conversations and you can really get accurate information rather than me just talking over your head. And I feel like a lot of people do that to business owners or their clients because maybe they aren't in it and they don't understand it. What is SEO? What's schema? They don't know what these things are. So they just talk over their head, and we try really hard not to do that.
It's good to make you sound smart initially, but then you lose people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully.
Yeah.
Like I didn't completely realize until I'm listening to you talk how similar our worlds are. I always tell my daughters that everything is a different widget. Like literally all business is the same in my mind. If you are good with people and you're driven and you work hard and you care, you can be successful at whatever you do. But the key component to that is just being good with people. And then the other piece to it is surrounding yourself with good people. So in my world, it's the exact same thing. I've got really good people who are technical experts at what they do. Mm-hmm. And as such, if we're doing a project and talking about taking a wall out or how we're going to trim this, that, or the other, I am not going to stand in front of that client and tell them this is exactly how we're going to do it. What I'll tell the client is, I'm going to let the guys look at it. They're going to tell me how they want to do it. And that's how we'll do it, because why would I pigeonhole them when they're the technical expert? It makes no sense.
Exactly. Why would you even hire them in the first place?
Right.
If you're going to tell them how to do their job. So, I mean, I can't even, and then on top of that, I can't even tell you how much I've learned from Kristen and Caitlin and my team. They teach me things every day that makes me better, and I make them better.
So do you start with a fundamental piece of anything being that first anchor, that if you had the perfect client that would let you take hold, not me, the one that would relinquish control completely, and they come to you with a pretty good company, with a great concept, with good people, and you're just trying to get your arms around it and say, listen, here's where you should really start to build the foundation. Do you start by building or identifying brand or refining brand and kind of finding that voice for them? Do you start by just getting the basic, making sure that they've got a functional website and they've got a social media presence? Where are you starting with when you've got good tools to work with, but they have no direction? Where do you like to start them?
I like to start by looking at what they currently have, what they have in place, what they've done in the past, what's working, what's not working. I'm not a believer in let's throw good dollars after bad and redo things. Mm-hmm. If your website works, I don't want to rebuild it. Let's redo that later on down the line when we need to, when we've created a new avenue in your industry, a new line or whatever it is. I think it's important that we look at what's working, what needs attention, what's our lowest hanging fruit. Let's get that out of the way so that can be working for us, and then set achievable, attainable goals that support our overall objective that we can work together and score some success from. So if a client comes to me and they say, I hate my logo, I'm not getting any traffic to my website, I don't even know if my website's working, we dig into all of that and we'll make some recommendations. We'll figure out, is it the website or is it is it the SEO? Is it the message? Is it, you need some media because nobody knows who you are, whatever that is. Then we'll start to discover and unravel from there. My husband always says it's like the people who get their Christmas lights out and they're this big wad of lights. And he hates those, right? Yeah. Hates it. Frustrates him to no end. And I just sit there and I just love it. It's so relaxing to me. It's just unraveling a little puzzle. Mm-hmm. And that's what marketing is. That's what we do. So
let's hit I'll call them the anchors or the key elements that I think most people would think of in their marketing, that I think of in my marketing, and just get a couple of, hey, if you're going to do this, here's some things you need to think about. Okay. So, when you're building a website, when you guys are building a website for somebody, what are a couple of things that you're clearly trying to accomplish with that website that people need to keep in mind?
First and foremost, who is coming to your site? Who is your customer? Who do you want to come to your site? Who's visiting that? And in 3 seconds or less, can they identify what you do? Okay. So if they land on your site in 3 seconds or less, can they say this person builds this widget or this person does remodeling? Okay. If they can't, your site's not functional. Okay. I would also say, especially with Google's algorithm and everything else, always look at your website in two veins. So look at it on your desktop and look at it on your phone. Make sure your site is always mobile responsive or you're not even going to be ranked. And mobile responsive just means that anytime you've looked at a site on a phone, it kind of shrinks down or adapts in size. That's mobile responsive. So making sure that it changes the way that it looks on a phone versus the website so that it's easy for somebody to navigate if they're on their phone.
And if it's not making that change, then you're just losing all that mobile traffic, which most people live on their phones these days.
Correct. You're losing mobile traffic. Google's not going to rank you on search.
Because it just doesn't like the fact that it's not adjusted for mobile function. Okay.
Yep.
There you go. Okay. Learned something new right there. Okay. Anything else that you're thinking about from a website perspective?
Those are kind of top three.
Okay. The next topic, I guess I'm not going to have you go get the SEO expert and bring him in. So let's stay at 20,000 feet for a minute. Tell me what SEO looked like in the beginning. Tell me what it looked like 10 years ago and tell me what it looks like today in terms of just how has it evolved? I know that's a loaded question, but I just want like a snapshot. In the beginning, it was as basic as this, and then it started to evolve. And, 10 years ago, they were probably looking at this. And now today, my memory takes me back to 10 years ago, and it was all like keywords and meta tags. And that was probably it. So when I built my crap ass site,
I think it's funny. I think that was 10 years ago.
What was it?
It changes so fast. Keywords and meta tags and all of that. I mean, you could get away with that probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
So I'm maybe not that archaic then with that idea. But now what is it today?
So then it kind of transitioned into backlinks and
what does that mean? What is a backlink?
So having your site listed on other sites and, and connecting content and, blogs and all of those kinds of things. And now it's actually transitioning over the last year and into today to, I mentioned schema. So if you don't have that, you're not taking full advantage of SEO or where it's going. And that is the future of search engine optimization.
What does that mean? What does schema mean, or what is it?
So putting schema on your site, and I don't even know that I can speak that well to this, but from my understanding, especially when it comes to businesses that, service an area, or they go to multiple locations, or they do remodel jobs in multiple different locations. It's geotagging those locations to show your full range of service. Okay. So instead of having one listing for the lifestyle group, you would have 100. So that map that I always tell you I love that you used to do all the time and you used to update with all of your jobs, all of those pins would show up now on Google's search map.
Really?
Mm-hmm. If it was through schema and geotagged appropriately and all of that. So then that would immediately show if I was in 46236 and I searched for you, or I searched, remodelers near me, you would come up because you do all kinds of jobs there. Where now you wouldn't necessarily come up because there are other remodelers closer that would show up in those top 3 listings. And you're down on the south side, so maybe you wouldn't show up as well. Mm-hmm. So it's really starting to use more of that the local search. Everybody started doing near me and the zip codes and all of that. And so it's utilizing that local search. It's utilizing the area, the coverage area, geotags. It's craziness right now.
And are you getting credit from an SEO perspective? I guess you probably should explain what SEO is for somebody who's listening to this going, you idiots, I don't even know what you're talking about. Search engine optimization. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. Which is essentially how Google determines who's going to show up when I type in my long sentence to say I'm looking for someone that does something, that sells something,
Yes.
that's where I'm going to go do my
I'm
search.
looking for tree removal in Carmel.
Yeah.
Yes. And the reason you and I both keep mentioning Google as opposed to Bing and the others, Google owns 97% of web traffic and search. So it's important to make sure that you're adhering to Google's algorithms. And when they create a kind of format or parameters for rankings, we pay attention to that because that's how our clients are going to show up. So it's important to make sure that you're adhering to those and moving with them. A lot of people think they can do SEO one time on their website and they're done. You can't do that.
Is constantly having fresh content a helpful thing for SEO or not necessarily dependent on the algorithm?
So the current algorithm still rewards fresh content, and it is imperative that you are constantly updating your site.
And if you were to give an assessment of how you've seen the trend evolve over time, just primarily with Google, because they're the main player, are they trying, with what you just said a moment ago, are they just trying to get to more local flavor and content? Is that why they keep evolving the algorithm? Or in their eyes, if they're improving the algorithm, what is improving it mean? Meaning putting the most relevant businesses in front of you for what you're asking for?
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes. So anytime they make updates or try to improve that algorithm, they're trying to improve the user experience.
Okay.
So that means if I do a search where I am at, that's why you have your geolocate on all the time, or they say, is this where you are? And you click, yes, I'm here. Mm-hmm. Then it gives you places that are close to you. So it's constantly trying to give you what's most relevant, what's closest, what's, the most ideal solution for what you're looking for.
Okay.
And that's their goal, along with making a ton of money off of.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so how does that tie with the massive proliferation of social media platforms and everything? I know that we could have a 3-hour conversation alone about whether Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok or what's the right platform, or
whether your guy is gonna buy Twitter,
or whether Elon's gonna hopefully buy Twitter. See, now we're just going to get this podcast pulled from any links because I just said that. I've never been suspended from anything before. I guess that'll be a first. Might be taken down off of the platform. How does Google's SEO algorithms, how do they interact with social media platforms, if at all?
Actually, social media is a big component of search engine optimization. So your pages, as long as you're updating frequently, they directly interact with, you'll be ranked by something that you've posted. Based on
number of views and clicks or looks or likes or whatever. Do they do relevancy to that level? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm curious because I always use the analogy or the visual of the raptor from Jurassic Park. Like I always said when my kids were little, they were just little raptors. They would just test the fence to see what they get away with. And they would touch the fence and see if they were going to get shocked. And they just keep doing it. And then they finally figure out the weakness around them. So I picture Google literally with the SEO just testing all of these different directions and seeing where they're getting hits. And it's an accumulation of all of that activity determining your relevancy. Is that an analogy that even works in this world? Or is it more, it's obviously more sophisticated than a raptor from Jurassic Park, but is it more sophisticated than that in terms of?
They pull a lot of data.
Okay.
A lot of, cookies were once a thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Now cookies are going away, and they would track all of your activity online by the cookies that you left, this trail of cookies. Mm-hmm. And they would know how to deliver relevant information to you based off of your search history. Well, now that's been deemed
invading your privacy at some
invading
level,
your
right?
privacy. So now they can't do that anymore. So they've had to come up with different ways to discover that, manage that. And so it's a huge collection of data. And, Facebook does the same thing. And I would also say, especially for search engine optimization and social media, a lot of people forget about Google My Business. If you're a business owner, you need to be posting on Google My Business. It's going to increase your SEO. It's going to increase your rank, and it's going to increase your presence.
Am I posting on Google My Business?
You are.
Excellent.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My marketing people are doing a good job then. Okay.
Yeah.
I at least know what it is. So that is a positive. But that's a real life example of speaking to something that in the course of being busy day to day, I'm not going to stop and think about how I can update Google My Business or even know that. I don't know that.
And a year ago it didn't even matter. Wasn't a big thing.
Now it does.
Now it matters. And if you're not, you need to be. So if I throw out a platform, I want you to tell me where you think the relevancy of the platform falls. So ooh, pop quiz. Okay.
Yeah. So when I think Facebook, I think older generation, an incredible way to connect with people that we've lost track of over time and to make the world smaller, and probably still a good way to get in front of people that are a little bit on the older side, and that is their primary tool of communication, because that's the one social media thing that they at least learned initially and have stayed intact with. Right or wrong?
Right.
Anything you would add to that?
But you know where Facebook came from.
Mark Zuckerberg. Go ahead. What else?
So it was initially launched on college campuses.
Yes, that is true.
It was just for students.
Yes, that is true.
And then it kind of grew up along with all the generations, right? We didn't even have social media when I went to school. So it was something that I had to learn afterwards and build on. But that's grown up. And then, your parents got on there, your grandparents got on there to stay up to date with photos of the grandkids and what they were doing and all of these different things.
Yep.
So yes, the predominant generation on Facebook is 55 plus.
The interesting thing that I see is on occasion, my youngest daughter that has just graduated from school and is out on her own, it's almost like this rite of adult passage where at least you have a Facebook now, even if you don't really use it that much, you kind of re-engage with it just to talk to the old people is how I look at it, or how to keep up with people. There's probably no relevancy to that at all, but I do think that is the primary communication vehicle for my parents, our age, people my age.
It is still the number one social media channel.
Where do you think?
Well, actually,
Yeah.
I think 2 weeks ago that
You
changed.
gonna say TikTok?
Yeah,
I think TikTok passed it.
2
I saw
weeks
that.
ago, TikTok passed it.
Yeah. That's quite the commentary on our society, which we'll get to in a minute.
Well,
We're going there.
TikTok just came out. Craziness.
That's nuts. Okay. Let's go next to Instagram. I feel like Instagram is the emerging cool place to be in general, and that is becoming more widely adopted even with older people who are trying to be cool and stay relevant. And it's a significant business tool. I probably should have gone. Let's come back to Instagram. Let's circle back. Let's go Twitter next, because Twitter was the next in the process.
We can come back to Instagram as long as you don't use the word emerging, because it is not.
It's emerged. Yeah, I'm emerging on it. See, that's the problem. All right, let's go Twitter. Okay. Then we'll come back to Instagram. All right, Twitter. Twitter is, that is the scourge of the earth, to be perfectly honest. And I spend a lot of time on there. I get a lot of my direct content comes from there when I'm reading for information and news, and you have to just ignore all the bots and get to trusted sources of information. But if I want to know if if something pops up that there was an accident here or something there, I'll literally type it into Twitter and I'll find it in 3 seconds, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And that to me is amazing, but it's just, it's become so burdened by negativity and bots. It's sad how you have to filter through what used to be such a good tool for content and for information. But are you seeing Twitter being used effectively for business like it used to be, or just differently?
So Facebook was always the platform to kind of connect with your family and your friends, right?
Right.
And then Twitter was more, for the longest time, it was predominantly news. Mm-hmm. So it was, reporters and media and so much of that. So you could get a lot of news information. It was very content heavy. Whoever you were talking to or posting about, you weren't really connected with a lot of your friends and family. I mean, it was really just more about the content.
Right. That would actually be the place that you would go and actually connect with people you didn't know and create new communities of like-minded people, mm-hmm. which has actually probably become part of the downfall of Twitter, is that everybody has to be like-minded and be on one side of a fence or another.
Yes.
To be relevant, right? That it just kind of, the slope was too steep.
Yeah. Twitter became incredibly political, allowed way too much monitoring, and they were way too harsh with what they were allowing to be posted versus censoring and all of that. And it just really became a tool that, and then the bots and, all of these different things. And it's become they're losing, I can't even remember how many users per day, but it's dying a slow death. Yeah.
But yet it's an incredibly powerful tool still to this day. If used for good and not evil, it's really, really powerful for people to get a message out to a broader audience in short form.
Yes. I would say the one takeaway that Twitter owns is hashtags. Okay. Hashtags were born on Twitter. They, and they have transcended to other platforms now, but it gave us a whole new way to find information, to connect with people, to share content. Crazy. So, that's one really good thing that came out of Twitter.
Do you have your clients have a presence on Twitter just as another touch point?
Most of my clients have come off of Twitter.
Okay. I'm just curious to see how you viewed it from a business perspective.
Yeah. At this point in time, it's too volatile. So our clients have come off.
Okay. Now let's go to Instagram. What I call an emergent technology that emerged years ago, as I actually well know. I'm just now catching up to the wave that's already passed me by. But that to me is the most popular platform out there. TikTok is its own. We'll talk about TikTok in a minute, but in terms of a useful platform for businesses like mine or for day-to-day mom and pop businesses, mm-hmm. I would foresee that being one of the better tools.
Instagram is huge because Facebook's where your baby boomers are at. Mm-hmm. You have some Gen X there, millennials, but they're in and out, right? They don't live and die by that platform because they come in and out to communicate with their grandparents or what have you. Right. Instagram, that's where Gen X is. That's where your older millennials are. So those with buying power, significant buying power right now, that's where they're at. And this society has grown more and more visual. I think I just read 78% of our society is visual, and that platform is very visual based. So that's where people are. It's succeeding, still growing all the time. There's been some disruption in that platform because of TikTok. But Instagram is still a very viable platform, especially for business.
And for business owners that are trying to take advantage of that, if there are one or two things they should keep in mind with their Instagram presence, what would it be?
Hashtags.
Just hashtags. Did I hear or read something or somebody tell me something the last week that you shouldn't have more than 3 hashtags on a given anything? Have you heard that? Is that true?
I have heard that. I don't think that's true.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of the posts that are 2 lines of copy and then 15 lines of hashtags. Mm-hmm. I'm not a fan of that because it dilutes your content. But if you have 5 or 6 hashtags, okay, I think that's great because then your content is being pushed out to those different groups who either follow that hashtag or search for that hashtag. So then other people are seeing you as well. I have one Instagram channel that is specifically designed to push content out to anyone that doesn't know me.
Really?
It's all about my life and dogs and everything else and nothing to do with marketing. And I use hashtags and I have a ton of followers, but not family and friends. I mean, I think they do follow just because it came up in there, you might know this person. But I have all kinds of followers that I engage with and talk to, and because we have common interests.
Very cool. No, that's good. That's, again, I think all of these platforms have served to take a very big world and shrink it down to where you can have a sense of community, even if you're not living or standing right next to the person that you're interacting with, right?
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter.
Yep.
It's true. I can get on my IU basketball message board and interact with people from time to time. And I'm not one that would typically post a lot, but if I wanted to, but I see the same people all the time having interaction. And I'm sure that a lot of those people will get together and interact in that set. I mean, you just form relationships that way. Good,
Yep.
bad, or indifferent, right?
Yep.
Okay, now TikTok.
Nope. You missed one.
Which one I miss?
You missed a big one.
Pinterest?
No.
What?
Snapchat.
Oh, Snapchat. Yeah. Stock's going down. Go ahead.
Well,
Let's talk about Snapchat.
To hear that,
to this day, my daughters still post Snapchats, and I'm on Snapchat and follow them just to see what nonsense is going on because I know it'll disappear in 24 hours.
90% of millennials and Gen Z are on Snapchat.
Okay.
90%.
Okay.
So you want to talk about that younger generation that's coming up that doesn't know you, isn't aware of you. They're living on Snapchat.
So are you saying that I should have a business presence for the lifestyle group on Snapchat, or I should just be out there monitoring my daughter's nonsense?
Not yet.
Okay.
You should not be on Snapchat yet, but they're coming up and they're coming up fast.
Yeah, because they will be the ones that will be fueling the economy at some point.
Yes.
Okay.
So the same way Gen Xers and the older millennials now will dabble in Facebook to stay in touch with, parents and grandparents. Mm-hmm. That's what your younger millennials and your Gen Zers are doing on Instagram.
Okay.
They're on there, but just to, let you know what's going on or see what's going on. But they're living on Snapchat.
That is true. That's just about every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is true.
Yeah.
Okay. Now.
Yep.
I mean, Pinterest. We skip Pinterest. Mm-hmm. Pinterest. Touch on Pinterest for a moment because it's relevant to my industry, at least in that people can get on there, they can get ideas, they can come up with fun stuff. I mean, it's probably got its place, right? It's a niche. It's like a boutique platform.
It definitely has a place. It was designed for, your female audience that is thinking about doing a project or looking for information, wants to share with, other knitters or, somebody else who has redesigned their kitchen with a farmhouse style or, whatever it is. So it's a platform for that. And I'm on there all the time because I certainly
because you knit.
Don't knit, but I do like the craftier side of things. Yeah. And I'm constantly on there looking at designs and things that I may want to do to my house or, outfits or whatever. So it definitely has a place. Mm-hmm. But by just the sheer fact that it was designed for women, it automatically excludes 50% of the population. So it will never be able to compete with some of the larger.
Right. Makes sense. Okay. Now the dreaded TikTok. Go ahead.
Is it dreaded?
It's dreaded when my daughter tells me we're going to do a video and do a dance so she can post it and all the goofy stuff. Or dreaded for a dad probably is a good way to say it.
I think TikTok is very entertaining.
It is definitely entertaining. There is no question that you can sit and blink and 4 hours will have gone by and you're looking at people's nonsense. For sure.
Mm-hmm. And this is really an area where I struggle because I'm a firm believer that there's so many better things you can be doing with that time, that social media is such a time suck that it also creates all kinds of issues in our society and, all of these different things. Right. And I have all of those beliefs combating the fact that I have to know social media and I have to do it and do it for my clients. And I struggle with that.
Do you have clients that are effectively using TikTok to leverage and create brand and voice and relationships?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have one client that I would say probably the best example I can give you. They are a dog and cat boarding facility and daycare. So we can do all kinds of videos with dogs and cats.
That would be fun.
And they get tons of views and tons of interaction and
no shortage of content with cute dogs doing fun things, right?
No.
Yeah.
And the two top videos that people like to look at on social media is babies and animals. Mm-hmm. So they do really well on that channel.
Mm-hmm. So that is interesting. I'm constantly walking through the room and my wife is showing me a picture of a puppy that's talking to me, right?
Yes.
What is that all about? I don't know. I'll have to find out. But
if you follow my other Instagram, you'll see some of that.
Okay. I will look and check that out. Oh, my Lord. What social media mistakes are you seeing people make from a business perspective? Like just mistakes that don't do this. Think twice before you do A, B, or C. What might that be?
Oh,
just a couple
that
things
is a
that come to
loaded
mind.
question.
Yeah.
Don't do politics.
It's a good idea.
Just don't. You alienate so much of your customer base. It's not going to do you any good. Mm-hmm. And the likelihood of it backfiring on you is huge.
Right.
So don't do politics. Aside from that, I would say, stay away from things that might be offensive, profanity, any of those kinds of things. Just make sure you're addressing your audience. I follow a group called the Inappropriate Gift Company. And there's profanity on every post, but it's funny.
Mm-hmm. And
it's funny to me.
That edge is part of their brand, right?
That's part of their brand. Yeah. And so I will follow them, but somebody else isn't going to follow them. Mm-hmm. So, make sure that it's delivering to your audience and the type of person that you want to attract. Mm-hmm. Just make sure that you're thinking through who it is that you want to be reading that content. And is it going to be relevant to them?
Is there anything that we haven't talked about that should be on a business owner's radar? So we've hit on website, we've hit a little bit on SEO and social media platforms and things. Maybe will you spend 2 minutes just talking about brand and just creating a brand and defining it and why that's important? Because I think that may actually be the most important soft piece to pull it all together, but maybe that'll kind of bring us toward closure on this. So talk about brand for a moment.
I think so many business owners don't pay enough attention to their brand. They think they can put together a logo, throw up a website, and, we're off to the races. But so much, especially now, goes into your brand. And it's what you stand for. It's who you associate with. It's your social responsibility. It's your, the influencers that follow you. It's all of those things. People want to know you. They want to know who you are. They want it to be personable. as you said, this world that was so big is now so small. So people feel like they know each other just through social platforms, through online, and they want to know that. They want to know that they're supporting a company that they believe in.
And more and more, I feel like people will make a decision to work with somebody based on that, factoring it over any number of other things that might make sense to somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. They look at, does this person identify with me? Do they relate to me? Are we, cut from the same cloth, if you will? Do I trust them? Do other people that are like me trust them? So they look at all of those. I mean, look at reviews. Yeah. Reviews are huge. And anymore, people, when they go to buy something, they look at reviews. They look at your website. They look at your reviews. They look at your social media. They do their due diligence before they even have a conversation with you.
It's true. It is very true.
So if you're not managing all of those platforms, you're doing yourself a huge disservice.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you think is important for somebody to keep in mind as they're trying, whether it maybe not even so much developing a marketing relationship, but just is there something in your world that you're seeing people miss that we haven't talked about?
I think the most important thing that I try and stress to my clients all the time is remember who you're speaking to. Remember your audience. That's going to help you define where you're at on social or where you're at online, how much of a web presence you need, if you need digital ads, that's going to define a lot. So it's really, who are you talking to?
Okay.
And if you have a very solid grasp of who that is and you can define it, then that will help design the rest of your strategy.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to wrap this up by telling you that, relationship is a very important thing to me as it relates to how our clients perceive us, but it's also very, very important as it relates to who I do business with, whether it's personally or business to business with my company. I have a tremendous amount of respect for what you've done with your company and how you carry yourselves and the way that you're willing to jump in and kind of do whatever needs to be done. I mean, I know we didn't talk about interviewing potential applicants in this because you're not going to put yourself out there as a first line resource for interviewing, but you've done that for me. Like that's just a one-off of something that you were able to help me with that was very effective. And so I appreciate that. And I appreciate the relationship very much. How can people find you if they have an interest in doing something with their business or just taking that first step, knowing that you'll meet them where they are?
So meeting people where they are, we call it the CA way. And you can go to thecaway.com. You can email info@thecaway.com. You can call us. We're here and ready to chat.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for watching or listening. Appreciate all of the follows that we're getting and the views and all of that. I think it's been a really good resource for me. I learn something every time I do one of these, and hopefully others do as well. So thank you again for taking the time, and everyone have a wonderful day.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Making Business Personal podcast. Do you have a marketing question for our team? Want to hear more about a topic? Let's get personal. Connect with us, submit your questions, and share any feedback at collectivealternative.com. And don't forget to subscribe so that way you never miss an episode. We'll see you next time.